The film begins in a chilly dark room with our hero Choi Ye-jae kneeling on the ground, pleading for mercy and asking what he did to deserve this. Suddenly, a woman brandishing a gun approaches him, accusing him of trying to find her before she did. She points the gun at him and shoots him in the eyes, but instead of dying, he falls off a plane and even opens his eyes. After this, we are taken back 7 years to the time before the incident. An inspired Ye-jae has an interview with Kang, one of the largest firms in South Korea. He hasn't graduated yet, and this job will help him pay for his expensive education. Even his fiancée Lee Ji-soo is confident he'll get the job and wishes him luck. Sadly, a middle-aged man runs past him into oncoming traffic and is struck by a car. The man quickly tries to speak to our hero through his blood-stained mouth, but dies instantly. This traumatizes our hero to the point where he fails his interview. The repercussions of failing are severe, as YJ must now work multiple odd jobs in order to pay off his enormous student loans. After going through a number of years of hardship, he gets another chance at a final round interview in Kang. While the other interviewers laugh, the main man seems impressed by his hustle, and YJ leaves the interview feeling hopeful. However, as soon as he leaves, he receives a distressing call. A friend had persuaded him to risk all of his savings on a business, but it turned out to be a scam, and now YJ has no money for his upcoming wedding. Furthermore, he is unable to sue his friend because he made financial investments for profit. That night, on his way home from the police station, he witnesses Ji-soo getting out of a fancy car with a man who gives her a bouquet. Feeling like a burden to his girlfriend, Jae decides to end their relationship immediately. Things then get worse when his landlord leaves a note for him on the door instructing him to find a new place. As if this wasn't bad enough, a message. Ye-jae chooses to take his own life because everything in his life is going wrong. He writes a suicide note in which he says he is not afraid of death because it is the answer to his problems. In the following scene, he jumps off a building and perishes. The same woman YJ saw in the opening scene is sitting next to him when he wakes up on a private jet in a completely different body. She reads his suicide note and identifies herself as Death, an immortal being that judges souls and brings him to the top of a terrifying, black pillar. Death informs Ye-jae, who is now in his own body, that because he made fun of her by calling her a tool to end his pain, he will suffer terrible consequences even before he can face God's judgment. She casts him into a pit full of hungry demons waiting to feast on him, but before his body hits the water, he wakes up in the private jet, returning to a different body. Death then declares that he will die 12 times, and that each time, regardless of what body he awakens in, his soul will enter a new one. He will face impending death and go through the agony again, but if he can avoid his predetermined death, he can continue living in that body. YJ is shocked and confused to hear all of this, but before he can respond, Death disappears. The plane then experiences turbulence, which stabilizes quickly after. He is then slightly relieved to learn that he is in the body of Park Jint, the CEO of Ta King's son. At that moment, a small diamond-like orb enters his head, bringing back all of his memories. Park Jenta has spent his entire life in competition with his older brother. The same man who, prior to his death, appeared impressed by Ye-jae during their interview at Kang is currently training to become the next CEO. In the meantime, YJ is ecstatic to be able to fulfill his lifelong dream of leading the company as CEO, but little does he realize that this is a punishment and that this is just the start of an incredible journey. Soon after, one of the plane's engines breaks up, and flying debris from the explosion creates a hole in the side of the aircraft. The air hostess and pilot are pulled out, leaving the pilot by alone, confined to his seat while the fire spreads throughout the aircraft. Jin-T suffers terrible burns and ultimately passes away. AJ awakens in the same pitch-black chamber from the opening scene, where death is waiting for him. She has 11 bullets remaining, one for each of the lifetimes he must endure before dying in agony. Once he passes away, he will be cast into hell, where death will show him a terrifying glimpse of its fiery depths. However, there is a chance for him to survive. A diamond-shaped orb will grant him memories and abilities from the body his soul enters. If he survives, God, not death, will judge his deeds during that lifetime and he might receive a lifeline. At the next scene, YJ awakens in the body of SJ, a professional, and is prepared to fight for his slim chance at survival. However, the only way to do so is to take a bullet to the head and die. The daring devil, he is attempting an insane 8,000 skydive without a parachute. If he is successful, he pleads for a big 300 billion won cash award and lands on a safety net placed close to the ground. As viewers from all over the world watch this on his own streaming service, YJ has a spike in confidence and the TV ratings begin to soar. Suddenly, a vicious twist song falls headfirst into solid ground, instantly killed him. In the meanwhile, a brief sequence takes us to the scene of an accident where 2 dead bodies are found. When we see Ye-jae's passport-sized photo next to the woman's purse, the paramedic describes the woman's body as a mess, but something strange is going on. The scene then shifts to our hero, who is back in the cold, dark room with death after his recent head-splitting accident and realizing that he cannot change his fate. YJ says he is sorry for viewing death as a simple means of ending his existence, but she adds that it is too late because he has already committed a sin that has even enraged God. YJ is then taken to the body of disturbed high school student Kwon, who just as he is about to commit suicide. If he can escape this punishment, which includes getting shot in the head, he will be sent to hell. Because YJ is within his body, Hoku, who was raised in a low-income home by a single mother, is able to defeat the school bully Lee Jin-sung. Hoku is frequently tormented by bigger and stronger peers, but after being overcome by another man who is sucking at lunch, YJ comes up with a plan. He dumps his noodle bowl all over Jin-sang's head, humiliating him. The school bully then goes to the leader of the local gang and begs for revenge, but when the local boss discovers that Jin-sang is terrified of a skinny little boy, he severs ties with Jin-sang, feeling embarrassed to be associated with a loser. In the aftermath, everyone starts making fun of Jin-sang, leaving him without any friends. Nevertheless, the once troubled Huu is now much more eager to attend school. YJ feels that he can finally escape death and gradually rise from a middle-class family. But one night, as Yaku is making his way back to his house, an enraged Jin-sang hits him with a stone and crushes his head, killing him instantly. YJ is then sent back to death. As the two converse, she reminds him that the upcoming lives will be even more painful. She then shoots him in the head, and his soul is now transported into Lee Joo-hun, a 35-year-old fixer who does all the dirty work for a gang, including murder. Currently, he's being held captive by gang members who are questioning him. It is revealed that Joo-han stole 10 billion won from his boss after witnessing his girlfriend Yan-jae suffer at the hands of the gang and intended to escape with her. However, he was apprehended shortly after concealing the money, which is how he ended himself in this present scenario where he is employing his fighting abilities. After escaping on a bike, Joshua realizes that things are not as simple as they seem when his boss places a 2 billion won bounty on his head. As a result, trackers are hot on his trail, and we immediately enter a thrilling chase scene in which our hero uses his extraordinary motorbike skills to fend off hunters, leaving a trail of mishaps in his wake. He even escapes from his captors by daring a leap into a swimming pool when he's trapped between a rooftop and them. When he does, he drives to meet Yeonj at a pier. Won now has 10 billion and the love of his life, which gives YJ a lot of hope that he can finally. YJ wakes up in the dark, cold chamber, and Death laughs at him again, telling him that Kim Yan-jae never loved Won and that she was just after the money. Escape Death's twisted games, but in a shocking turn of events, his own girlfriend Yan-jae shoots him in the head, killing him instantly. Despite everything, YJ has a secret up his sleeve. He knows where Joo-in has hidden the money, and when he returns to his next body, he intends to retrieve it. YJ then smirks just before Death shoots him in the head. Sadly, all of his mental preparations are for naught, as YJ reincarnates as a prisoner and finds it difficult to unlock his new memories. Later, he finds out from his cellmate Kim Ji-young that they will both be released in 4 days. Unexpectedly, one of his cellmates is Lee Jin-sung, the high school bully who killed Haku. Knowing about his background, Ye-jae confronts him, and then all of a sudden, the memory orb appears, revealing that he is now Cho Tang. Once a wealthy man offered him a whooping 200 million won in exchange for being the fall guy in a hit-and-run case. However, when the victim of the hit-and-run died, the manslaughter charge was upgraded, and he was sentenced to 2 years in juvenile prison. The once aspiring mixed martial arts fighter gave up his career due to his family's financial difficulties. Since then, an enraged T-sang has been threatening to spill the beans and blackmailing the man for 1 billion won. Unbeknownst to him, the attorney has placed a 100 million won bounty on his head. Meanwhile, YJ has been outing the psychopath Jin-sang's past transgressions in public, which has led to him being teased by other prisoners. Now, YJ just wants to make it through his remaining days as Tae-sung by controlling his rage, but his blackmail plot backfires when prisoners, spurred by their desire to collect the bounty on his head, plot to murder him. When YJ engages in combat, he uncovers Tae-sung's secret fighting ability and begins to appreciate the might of his new body. After 4 days, YJ is eventually released from prison. He turns down the $1 billion payment for his blackmail and instead focuses on a larger reward. After a brief trip to the pier, Joo-hoon's hidden 10 billion is easily located, and he takes a nap in his room. The next morning, while soundly asleep, he is awakened by a phone call from Tung's mother. YJ conceals half of the money in a public locker, completely disregarding the policy that states that unclaimed property is seized after 4 days. He intends to give the remaining amount to Tang's mother, but little does YJ know that someone has been watching him since he was released from prison. The father of the girl who died in the accident has been waiting for his retribution for 2 years. Driven by vengeance, he ambushes him and stabs him, killing Tang instantly. Ye-jin stammers an apology, desperate to escape detection, but he is interrupted by approaching footsteps. It turns out that the person following him is none other than his prison buddy Ji-young, who has been pursuing the bounty on his head. When AJ returns to the familiar, cold, and dark room, he breaks down. However, he quickly gets himself together and resolves to retrieve the money he hid in the locker. With a sly smile on her face, she grants his request and sends his soul into the body of a helpless infant. In addition, the baby's parents are extremely abusive. The mother constantly yells at the child and the father tries to feed him expired food when the police visit the house in response to complaints from the pediatric hospital. Ye-jin cries because that is the only way he gets attention. But before death shoots YJ in the head once more, the father, who also works for Child Protection Services, manages to persuade the policemen of their innocence. As soon as they depart, the mother uses a pillow to strangle her own child, and YJ hastily returns to the dark room. She issues a strong warning: under no circumstances will he kill anyone. The next scene finds us outside the train station, where YJ had hidden the money in a locker just before the deadline passed. He gets the bag and notices that he has changed into Jang Gon-yu in the mirror. A 24-year-old model with a suitcase full of cash and a new, attractive face who never lacks money or females. Later that night, after YJ makes the decision to go to the party, a friend tells Ganu that if he gets along with the company's new CEO, Park Teo, he will have the opportunity to model for Tae-kong. Later, the CEO meets our hero, but a drunk Ganu is unable to identify where he saw his face. In fact, it's the same man who gave YJ a compliment at Tae-kang's interview the night before he committed suicide. The following morning, while assisting Kwon's elder brother in his cafe, YJ notices Jae-soo and experiences a memory of all the times they shared. Later, the elder brother discloses that she is a well-known novelist and that she visits the cafe daily. In a brief flashback, we see Ji after doing a quick internet search. Yanu goes to the library and finds Sue's book To You in the Future. From that day on, JJ starts meeting with Sue every day while posing as a fan who has a story about death stuck in his head. Sue had always wanted to be an author, and her boyfriend EJ had encouraged her to pursue her dreams back at the cafe. And the experiences he's had in the form of a tale, though he keeps the protagonist's name a secret. One evening after seeing her off, Ganu hears of an accident close to the cafe. Terrified, he rushes to the scene and notices a red umbrella similar to the one he gave Jae-soo. Thankfully, he finds her safe, and their bond grows as she shares her story of Jae committed suicide, and the day after, overcome with regret, he goes to his own grave as Ganu. There, he sees his mother, who can't stop crying and runs to the restroom. The sight breaks his heart, and for the first time since his death, he faces the repercussions of his actions. After his next meeting with Ji-soo, YJ offers to walk her home and reminisces about the times he walked hand in hand with her. Realizing that he might not live much longer, Ganu confesses that he is the man in the store stories that he's been telling her and reveals about his first life as Ye-jae. However, before an emotional Jae-soo can process his confession, a red car violently crashes into them. Later that night, he secretly sends his mom the money he had hidden. He also has a nightmare where he dies after a signboard falls on his head. Ju perishes right there. We see a brief flashback. Sequence in which Park Tae casually emerges from the automobile with Ganu critically injured but still alive. At the end of the film, when YJ returns to life and discovers that she is reading Ji-su's book to you in the future, he becomes enraged and grabs her gun, pointing at her and asking if she is enjoying it. Park 2 has been involved in the murder of every single reincarnation of YJ in one way or another. He then suffocates Ganu to death. Here is the accident scene we have been seeing throughout the film.